After a short break, the drivers return to Zwartkops for round 6 of the Midas Historic Tour for some exciting racing on the spectator-friendly track. History in Motion is proudly brought to you by Midas Sport, Gumtree, Mitsubishi Electric and their associate sponsors. Peter Jenkins takes us up the hill and talks us through the tabletop.
We're standing here at Zwartkops racetrack on turn 5, what is commonly called the tabletop. You're coming from turn 4, which is quite a fast corner. There's quite a steep hill, but a reasonably length of straight, so the cars get up to quite a high speed coming up here. The tricky bit is braking, going into the corner, because the uphill levels out, that's why it's called the tabletop, and you need to decide whether you're going to be braking before it levels out or afterwards. Very few cars are able to brake afterwards, so it's quite a technical part of the corner. The other exciting bit about this turn is that it's the favourite overtaking place on the track. A lot of changing of position happens here, and also the exciting thing is that once you've overtaken somebody, they also have an opportunity to come back at you through the next couple of corners. So we're standing on turn 5, and this will be the entrance into the tabletop. It's a right angle bend. The track is flat, so there's no camber on it at all. So it's a very, very nice corner to take. But as we said earlier on, the track is wide enough for somebody to go into the corner next to you. And a lot of the old experienced hands, you're trying to outbrake them coming in here, and they're going to stay on the outside of you going around the corner. So you've come out of turn 5, you've come along the short straight, and you'll be coming up to turn 6, which is the second part of the tabletop. Turn 6 is a far more difficult corner. It's a bit more than 90 degrees, I'd say probably 120 degrees, and it always feels like it's tightening up on you. So to get the right line through here, you have to come in wide, right over here, and go into the corner as late as possible. Now, we were talking about overtaking earlier on. If you've got somebody that's managed to stay on the outside of you, you can't get the wide enough line going into the corner, and they've actually got a better line going through this corner. So often the person you've just overtaken can have the opportunity to come back at you, and they'll have the inside line going into the last corner.
Refreshed and recharged, the drivers of the Marlboro Crane Hire Historic Saloons classes F to H were taking some time to catch up before the serious action on the track began. Let's hear from Dave Lation.
Been a long time off and getting the car sorted out, and hopefully Richard's got it running properly again. We had a good run with the car. It went for ages and ages and ages, and all of a sudden we had a lot of trouble. So yeah, it feels good on the track. Bit of a starting back at the grid, but it should be a nice race today. Looking forward to it.
There's a lot of work that went into the car in the last month or two. Yeah, it certainly looks the part, so I hope we do well. We put a new exhaust pipe, new suspension bushes, a couple of things that was done. So yeah, it should be okay. We're all the way from Marlboro, so yes, a lot of effort that goes into this.
Let's hope all the hard work and effort pays off for Lawrence as the cars assemble in the pre-race paddock ahead of race 1. Daniel Lotte in his Zach Speed Ford will lead the pack from pole position. Alongside him is the blue Datsun of Johan Prince. It's an all-escort affair on row 2 with Ian Odendaal and Brett Maurice in 3rd and 4th. Colin Keane will start from 5th with Quentin Willis in 6th place. The 30-strong field of cars roar down the main straight to take the start. 3 abreast, Keane, Willis and Maurice. Daniel Lotte getting a great start in his Zach Speed Ford leads the way through turn 1. Behind him, Odendaal has moved into 2nd position ahead of Prince. The three-way battle behind them continues with Maurice edging a slight advantage over Willis and Keane into turn 2. The rest of the field still tightly bunched together as they make their way through Renexcon. Grant Tritter started his race from 25th on the grid, and he is looking to move up the field in his Ford Escort. Heading through Speed and Sound Sweep, and he finds himself dropping back a position. Through Castrol Corner, and David Hole in his red and gold Escort leads Paige Lindenberg and Dave Lation up the hill. Lotte has the speedy Ian Odendaal behind him as he rounds Sassel. Brett Maurice and Quentin Willis are filling up the mirrors of Johan Prince. Wayne Canciani with the inside line moves ahead of Colin Keane. Wayne Lotte has a look too, but is not quite close enough yet. The blue and yellow Mazda 3-3 of Don Brains is putting the pressure on Lotte though as they head through Kenwood. Through turn 3 and coming up to turn 4, Dave Lation is making his way up the order after starting in 13th position. He'll be looking for an improvement on that and is currently in the top 10. David Hull, having watched Lation's move on Keen, is having a look at the Mercedes as well. Into the tabletop, and Hull has a look down the inside of Keen, but the Mercedes puts the power down and manages to stay ahead. Coming into BMW Performance Parts, the checkerboard Mercedes of Hubi van Moltke leads Ian Morgan and Harry Lombard. Morgan's relentless though and keeps the pressure on van Moltke. Johan van der Walt retires his Mercedes, a spark plug popping out, the reason for his short race. Up into Sassol, it's Regardt van Zyl ahead of Kirsten Venter and Ilani Fonk. Fonk is the inside line, but Venter holds strong on the outside and carries the better line through Kenwood and moves ahead of Fonk. Q and Helen in the red Alfa Romeo Giulia slides down the inside of Colin Keen's Mercedes as they go through Sassol. Barreling into turn 8, and Ian Odendaal spins it right round. He gathers his wits and 3 positions down manages to splutter down the straight, smoking and pouring out oil as he goes. Realizing the magnitude of his problem, Odendaal pulls off the track at the end of the straight, leaving a trail of chaos in his wake. Colin Keen and Q and Helen both taking excursions after hitting the oil. Keen is able to rejoin, but Helen takes a while to make his way back onto the track. The VW Beetle takes Harry Lombard for a ride as it finds the oil and spins around as well, luckily avoiding Ian Morgan. You can see how Morgan had to think quick to avoid contact. Into Renix Khan, it is Van Moltke who leads Morgan as the two Mercs continue unscathed from the oil. Bearing battle scars, Q and Helen limps his Alpha round with bodywork rubbing on the rubber of his tyre. Up at turn 5, it's Wayne Lotter who's ahead of Dave Lation and David Hull, who go through the corner side by side. Mirror to mirror, they race to turn 6. Hull keeping the power down on the inside, edges slightly ahead. Lation runs wide and into the gravel. This allows Hull to get away and causes some damage to Lation's exhaust, which is now dragging on the track. Trying to make up some lost ground into turn 1, and Lation ends up heading for the wall. That's the end of his race. Up at G&H Transport, and this time it's Kirsten Venter who finds herself spinning around on the oil. Watching Lation's incident again, you can see how lucky he was not to make any contact with the wall. The oil from Odendaal really causing a lot of chaos. Up at turn 5, and Van Moltke and Morgan are still locked in a close battle. Hubi van Moltke holding the advantage for now. On the main straight, Don Brains has also managed to find the oil as well, as he goes farming on the infield. Wayne Canciani leads Wayne Lotter, but it is a smoking David Hull who is going to pull his Ford Escort over into retirement just before Renixcon. Van Moltke and Morgan are not giving each other an inch as their battle rages on. Van Moltke edging ahead, but Morgan is pushing hard and puts 2 wheels into the gravel. This sucks the back in. He keeps the power down and ends up spinning around again. The red flag is brought out and the race is brought to an end. A combination of the oil on the track and the cars at the side of the track. Let's have another look at Ian Morgan's spectacular spin. The results of the shortened Marlboro Crane Hire Historic Saloons Classes F to H race saw victory for Daniel Lotter with Johan Prince in second. Hubi van Moltke edged victory over Ian Morgan by 0.4 of a second in Class G, with Kirsten Venter recovering to take victory in Class H.
The race was going well, and I think one of the front cars dropped a bit of oil coming into the straight piece here, and picked it up, and obviously a bit of residue on the tyre turning in here. And that was the end of the grip, gone. Yeah, you're going quite fast coming down here, so it's got a bit of momentum when you lose the grip till it stops.
It's doing very well, and then I think the little nipple that the filter screws onto, that broke off. So I was a lucky person to throw all the oil on the track. I went into turn 8, yeah, and I went in, all was good, and as I came out, the car just spun, I lost control. And I thought, okay, well, I actually thought it was a bunch at first, but then I just saw people telling me to get off the track, and then looked under the car and saw the oil leaking.
Historic Saloons was my best race ever. I was 4th in Class G in qualifying, and I managed to get into the lead, and I had a lot of action behind me. Harry Lombard spun trying to pass me into the last turn into the pit straight where the oil was, and Ian Morgan was all over me like a bad rash and spun out right in the top of the tabletop in the last lap. But I managed to stay ahead, and I think it's my first win. So that's, I hope, is the beginning of better things to come.
Okay, a lot of oil on the track. Everyone was moaning. I was loving it. Something different, great challenge. And yeah, great race. But a bit hard, a lot of ploughing, many battles, only one spin up at the top. But yes, there were a lot of battles. I had a great battle with Ruby the whole race. He made me work very hard. The Blue Beetle, as always, is right neck and neck with me. But having a great time, my first race, and can't wait for the second.
Coming down the hill into the pit corner, there was some oil lying there, and I unfortunately spun. And of course, half the fuel got past me. So yeah, I'll have to start quite far back, depending on what they decide on the final results at the end of the day.
Kirsten was in front of me at the start. I caught up to her, just couldn't pass her, and then Richard was behind me and he got a gap through, and then afterwards I got past her as well.
And Ilani was very good today, good on the brakes and in the corners, but I managed to pass at the end of the day, so we had good fun.
I saw these two coming up behind me, and I know they're both faster, so I tried to hold them off as long as I could, but it just wasn't going to be. I knew at some point they would get through, but yes, it was a great race. Just the oil was a bit of a downer at the end.
The lights go out and race 2 begins, and Daniel Lotter leads the field into turn 1. Peter Ross passes a slow starting Dave Lation as he accelerates towards turn 1. Daniel Lotter, Johan Prince, Quentin Willis side by side Lotter and Maurice. Canciani, Lindenberg and Brains locked in battle as they head through Renexcon for the first time in race 2. Wayne Canciani leads Paige Lindenberg and Don Brains up to the tabletop and through turn 5. Brains edging ahead, but it looks like Canciani has run slightly wide heading towards Kenwood. Somehow he manages to keep his position ahead of the Mazda 323 as he powers down to turn 7. Hubi van Moltke is ahead of a 3-way battle between Rene Janssen van Rensburg, Ian Morgan and Richard van Zyl. Van Zyl is the big loser through the hairpin as Harry Lombard drives round the outside. Into Sassel, and Lindenberg and Brains are still racing wheel to wheel. Lindenberg takes the inside line and Brains is pushing hard. The back gets away from him and this causes a bit of a slide and he slips in behind the escort. The Mazda will have his work cut out for now. The big Mercedes of Von Moltke leads a gaggle of cars through Renexcon. Ian Oudendal has recovered from his race 1 maladies and is putting on a strong performance from the back of the grid. Morgan is in hot pursuit. Heading through Kenwood, and Morgan is wheel to wheel with Von Moltke. A plume of dust and Morgan has run wide onto the gravel. He keeps the power down and rejoins the track 2 positions back. The blue Mercedes of Fani Kloppers leads the red and white Alpha GTV of Peter Ross up into turn 5. Peter Ross is having a good run and is doing his best to find a way past Kloppers. After his excursion, Ian Morgan has worked his way back up and is running alongside Ilani Fonk as they make their way through turn 5. Fonk on the inside and Morgan on the outside, being careful to keep all 4 wheels on the black stuff. He loses out and Fonk gets the power down and moves ahead. Lawrence van Zyl leads the front runners of Quentin Willis and Brett Maurice through Castrol Corner. Fani Kloppers and Peter Ross have already been lapped and are continuing with their own race. Brett Maurice is trying hard to get onto terms with Willis as the pair make their way through Sassel. Some clever driving and Maurice manages to find a gap down the inside of Willis through Kenwood and moves alongside him. Side by side they head toward turn 7, nothing between these two. Not much later and Willis is pulling off to the side of the track with gearbox problems, a real shame after a great day's racing. Johan Prince brings his blue Datsun down the hill to find the final turn, and he will also find the checkered flag waiting for him. A great race from the Datsun. Ilani Fonk has had a very busy race, but she will lead Harry Lombard in the VW Beetle and Richard van Zyl in his Alpha GTV over the line. Looking at the results, and Johan Prince had too much of a good race and broke out of his allocated time, so he was moved down to 2nd place, handing the victory to Brett Maurice. Rene Janssen van Rensburg took Class G honours with Kirsten Venter winning Class H.
At the start, I managed to get a reasonably good start, and I was having a good run with Brett and with Prince. It was very good going. We swapped places, Brett and myself, and I was running very strong till about 1 lap from the end when the gearbox cried enough and I had no more gears. So that was me done for the second heat this afternoon.
I just want to say thanks to Quinton. We gave each other a lot of room, a lot of respect. Both races, both heats, we were having a ding-dong. And it's just great racing with guys that look after each other's cars, and we had a great day. And yeah, all good. So I want to say thanks to Quinton. We didn't touch each other. It was a fantastic day. Thank you, everybody. It's great news that I thought I'd finish second. So to be told that I got the first for the day, it's great news. It's exciting. Definitely going to have a beer now.
Join us after the break for more great action from the InvestChem Formula Fords.